Gentlemen, welcome to Notice Tonight, the show that decodes the region. I am Wasbir Hussain. Within weeks of the centre abrogating Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir that stripped the state of its special status, including its separate flag and constitution, the NSCN-IM, which has been engaged in peace talks with New Delhi since 1997, has written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterating its demand for a separate flag and constitution for the Nagas. The NSCN-IM letter, signed by its chairman Q Tuku and General Secretary Twingalang Muiva, has sought to identify the group's demand for a flag and constitution for the Nagas as core issues which it wants to be resolved. The demand of the Naga groups for an independent homeland first seemed to transform into integration of Naga areas in the region into a single administrative unit. And now, frontline groups like the NSCN-IM is talking of the flag and constitution as part of the core issues. Several questions arise. Is the NSCN-IM decision to press the two demands a result of apprehension after the abrogation of Article 370 in J&K? Would New Delhi concede to the Naga demand of a flag and a constitution which has tremendous sentimental value among the people of Nagaland, or for that matter, Nagas in general? Of course, the flag is dear to the Nagas, but what if New Delhi finds it difficult to concede the demands? To discuss this and more, I am joined from Kohima by Naga Hoho advisor Mr. Chuba Uzukum, Naga Students Federation Assistant General Secretary Supuni Philo, Naga People's Front spokesman Achumbemo Kikon. From Shillong, I am joined by Professor Xavier Mao from the Northeastern Hill University. And in Guwahati, I have Professor Nanigopal Mahanta from Guwahati University, a well-known political commentator, and senior journalist Mr. Susanto Talukdar. And of course, I also have Arunav Goswami, Assistant Director at the Center for Development and Peace Studies, a leading Guwahati-based think tank. Gentlemen, welcome to Northeast Tonight. Let me go to you first, Mr. Chuba Uzukum, advisor to the Naga Hoho. Mr. Chuba Uzukum, once again welcome. The question is, the NSCN-IM letter to Prime Minister has come within weeks of the centre abrogating Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir. Does it indicate that the Nagas are generally a little bit apprehensive after this development?
Well, Wasbir, yes, Naga people was very much apprehensive after the abrogation of Article 370 and Jammu and Kashmir. But actually, the history of the Jammu and Kashmir and the Naga people, we have a different political history. And over and above, when we've heard the assurance from the governor of Nagaland and also the Honorable Home Minister of India that the central government does not have any intention to abrogate Article 371A from Nagaland state. So we are very much hopeful that India is really sincere and determined to bring political settlement at the earliest.
Right. I'm just coming back once again to you, Mr. Chuba Uzukum, but let me quickly go to Mr. Supuni Philo, who is the Assistant General Secretary of the Naga Students Federation. Mr. Philo, you know, the NSCN letter written by its chairman, Mr. Tuku, and the General Secretary, Mr. Muiva, to the Prime Minister is very, very significant and interesting in the sense that, you know, they have described that while reiterating the demand for a flag and the constitution, the NSCN-IM has described these as the core issues, Now, many people are asking, yes, the flag and the constitution is extremely important for the Naga people because it has a history and they are very dear to the Nagas. But the question being asked by some people now. What about the core issue of a separate administrative unit for the Nagas? Integration of the Naga areas into one administrative unit. Is it not a core issue now?
Yes, Mr. Wasbir. The Naga leaders have always maintained that the Naga issue is unique and that the solution will be unique. This unique history and the solution that the Naga people talks about is not only the views and the voices of the Naga people, but it's also the voice of the central government. When we say that the central government, or when we say that the demand for a separate flag and a separate constitution, we are only demanding something which is based on the unique history of the Naga people. We cannot say that the Naga issue is similar to the other issues, other political issues of the nation and even abroad.
Right. Absolutely.
The thing is, we keep saying that the unique history and the unique rights of the Naga people should be respected. So the government should not hesitate, but ensure that the solution that has been envisaged by the negotiating parties is above and beyond the Constitution of India.
Okay, fine. I'll come back to you, Mr. Philo. Professor Xavier Mao. Professor Mao, there is some amount of confusion among people who are observing the Naga issue. People are among observers of the Naga issue. There is some amount of confusion after this recent letter, because we all know by now that the NSCNIM, among other issues or among other demands, are also demanding a separate flag and a constitution. But now the group has decided to describe the demand of a flag and constitution as core issues. Now, do you regard this as only the main core issue, the flag and the constitution? What about the other demands? What about political autonomy? What about economic development? What about the financing policy? What about more finances?
Well, the NCNIM or any Naga political group may demand the sun, even the moon, but the important question is, will the people of India, will the government of India concede to their demand at this point of time? Although it is true, the Naga political history has its own political rights, and it has its own separate history, which was not a part of Indian empire or any of the Indian kingdom. Historically, politically, they are right. But at this point of time, is this realistic? Is this pragmatic? Will be my question. Therefore, to my mind, it is not realistic. It is not pragmatic. On the contrary.
Professor, what is not realistic? What is I have to interrupt you.
Area,
Professor, what is not realistic and what is not pragmatic according to you?
According to me, the demand for a separate constitution and a separate flag at this point of time is not at all realistic. It is not at all pragmatic.
Okay, let us have.
Demand persists,
okay, let us have. Before I come to my other panelists, very quickly,
will be settled.
Very, very interesting. We will have. Let us have Professor Mao and Chuba Uzukum together. Mr. Chuba Uzukum, you have heard Nehru University Professor Xavier Mao saying that the demand for a flag and constitution is not pragmatic and realistic at this stage, at this juncture. How do you respond, Mr. Chuba Uzukum?
Well, Wasbir, as far as the Naga case is concerned.
No, I'm not asking you, Mr. Achumbemo. This is Mr. Achumbemo. You hold on your thoughts. I'm asking Chuba Uzukum. Mr. Chuba Uzukum, you have heard Professor Mao saying that the demand for a flag and a constitution is not realistic at this juncture. Mr. Uzukum.
No, Wasbir, I've not heard what Professor Xavier Mao have said, but when he said that the demand for the separate flag and the constitution is not realistic, to me that is something little hard to digest. Because you see, when we think about political negotiation with between the government of India and Naga political negotiators,
Yeah.
after the signing of the ceasefire, the talk has started with a demand of sovereignty from the Naga people,
Yeah.
the Naga negotiators. Now, on the part of Naga negotiators, they have come down from sovereignty to the separate flag and the constitution. I think that is something which the government of India have to be serious. When the negotiators are not so adamant about the sovereignty, which
Yeah.
is the core issue for
Okay.
all the Naga political groups,
Right.
the demand for the separate flag. You see, at least 3 lakhs Naga people have been fallen when they fought for the Naga flag.
Yeah.
So this is a time that if India is really willing to solve our problem, I think they should also consider.
Okay, that is a very,
the
very,
demand of
very
the
important
Naga
point that you are making, Susanto Talukdar. You know, you have heard Professor Mao, who was very candid in saying that this is not a pragmatic and realistic demand at this point in time, to which a counter argument by Mr. Chuba Ozukum is that, you see, we should not forget the fact that the Nagas, they have come down from their original demand of a separate homeland to that of a flag and a constitution. Therefore, Mr. Ozukum is saying the government of India must take this demand seriously and waste no time in granting it. How do you see this argument?
I think, I mean, government has to show some flexibility in resolving this problem, because the Naga people cannot be allowed to suffer for more long years, because they have already suffered for 6 decades, more than 6 decades. So even if it is, I mean, we cannot equate the flag and constitution issue with that of the Kashmir, because these are 2 separate issues. And then because we have to understand that the status they have reached after prolonged negotiation, and it was acknowledged by both the sides that both the sides have reached this stage through give and take. So I think the government of India has to recognize that it is deep-rooted, because on August 14, the NSN
1947.
I am talking about this
August 14.
This August
Okay.
14 Naga Independence Day celebration. RS raising the convener of the steering committee of the NSNIM, when he apprised the people there who had gathered there on the highlights of the Naga peace talks. He has referred to all the points that the progress of the talks, and also why it is important for the Naga the groups, the issue of the shared sovereignty, and that the Nagas and then Indians are 2 entities. So when they say that when this is the coexistence of between 2 entities, then you have to recognize the entity in some or the other form.
In some form or the other, and the flag and the constitution is one way of looking at it. I'm coming to you, Aruna, but before that, let me go to Mr. Achumbemo Kikon in Kohima, the spokesman of the main opposition party, that's the NPF. Mr. Achumbemo Kikon, you know, I was asking this question to the other panelists a little while ago. Is there a worry in Nagaland or among the Nagas after the center withdrew Article 370 in J&K? Of course, as Mr. Chuba Ozukum has said that, you know, the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, he has assured that Article 371A, which is in force in Nagaland, will not be tinkered with, and that has removed a lot of apprehension in the Naga areas. Achumbemo, what do you think?
Well, Wasbir, as far as the Naga case is concerned, it is distinct from the rest of the states in India, because you are aware that the state of Nagaland was created out of a political agreement. Please mark the word political agreement.
Right.
Yes, there are some anxiety in the minds of the Naga people after the abrogation of 370 from the Constitution of India, which provides special or temporary, you call it, status to the Jammu and Kashmir. However, as far as the Nagaland special status is concerned under Article 371A, I'm repeating it, it has been inserted in the Constitution of India out of a political agreement, but that has not actually resolved the real contention on the part of the Naga people, and therefore you are aware that that the peace process is going on. The government of India is again engaged the Naga political groups, the Naga national workers, and the political talk is going on because 371A and the creation of Nagaland state is not the final and ultimate solution for the Naga people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Arnav, this whole Naga issue dates back to 1929 when the Simon Commission came, to inquire into the status of education and governance in the Naga hills. Then the people, when the delegation under the banner of the Naga Club met the Simon Commission delegation, they said that, okay, nobody has conquered the Nagas before, but under the British it is fine, but if you go away, let us leave us alone. That was the in gist. I'm talking very superficially for lack of time. They leave us alone. That was the message to the Simon Commission. It all started. Then we know how the Nagas, declared the quote-unquote independence one day before, which is of course not accepted by the Indian government. So that is all known. But now, between the statement made by Professor Xavier Mao that it is not practical to demand a flag and a constitution now, to the argument given by a veteran leader like Mr. Chuba Ozukum of the Naga Hoho that, well, we should not forget the fact that the Nagas have come down from the original demand of an independent Naga homeland to that of a flag. Therefore, there should not be any trouble. Government of India should take it seriously and give. Where do you stand on this?
Here, let us see one thing. The present Indian constitution has no provision for a separate state flag for the states, but the Indian constitution also doesn't prohibit the states from having a flag. So, a state flag is acceptable as far as the Indian constitution or Indian government is concerned. The government can grant a state flag, but the question here is that whether to take a separate state flag, is it necessary to defer a political settlement in the state of Nagaland? The discussion which has been going for so long, just for the issue of a separate state flag, do you need to defer the political
settlement? This is a very important question which Arunabh Goswami has of the CDPS has raised. Mr. Supuni Philo, the question being asked is, let us go to Mr. Supuni Philo of the NSF. The question being asked is, you have been negotiating since 1997. It is a long 22 years. Now, is it necessary to hold up the entire agreement on demand of issues? I'm not undermining it in any way. On demand of issues symbolic in nature, like a flag and a constitution. Because many will argue that go ahead with the broad picture and keep demanding the rest. That is also one argument. Where do you stand? What is your view?
Well, Wasbir, I have earlier stated that the Naga solution should not be restricted to the Constitution of India. Yes, we understand there has been prolonged negotiation pertaining to the Naga issue. However, until unless the solution that is to be brought forth is of a nature which is acceptable to all the Naga people, then I think it is best, and the Federation will always say that it is best that there is no solution if the solution is not honorable, if the solution is not acceptable.
Right. That's a very interesting argument there. Professor Mao, we can have Professor Mao on the phone line. Professor Mao, can you hear me? Oh, okay, let us have Professor Mao on the phone line. No point in struggling with his audio line, video line, because if we hear him, that will be great. In fact, Susanto, what do you have to say? Because, the issue here is of a solution. Now, do you get a sense that when the NSC and IM had written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they said that these are the two core issues, flag and constitution, on which the two sides have not come to an agreement. This also gives an indication that there has already been an agreement on the other major issues. Is my understanding correct? Do you also think on the same lines?
Now we have to understand first what are the other major agreements. I mean, is there an agreement that to expand the territory? Now, the Ornav has raised the question of why should there be a state flag? Because we have to understand that.
No, he said that there is provision for a state flag.
Yeah, there is a provision for state flag, and so why keep the solution hanging just for state flag? But then we have to understand here that the NSNIM or the other Naga political groups, they are not going to accept a solution that will be applicable only in the state of Nagaland. So they are looking at solution where in a larger area. So we are not clear, we have not understood as yet whether the government of India has offered a solution that will be applicable beyond the state of Nagaland, because that has been made clarified by the NSNIM.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that is an important point that you are raising. But you see, 4 years after the signing of the framework agreement, nobody is quite sure. Nobody can say with certainty as to what is the content of that 3rd August framework agreement. But what we generally understand now in the last 4 years is that the government might come up with a proposal for a separate administrative structure or administrative superstructure for the Naga people that will have no territorial boundaries, that will have a boundaryless administrative superstructure. Let me go to Mr. Chubao Zukum. Is that possibility likely, that there will be an superstructure, administrative superstructure that will deal with Naga affairs across the northeastern region? Of course, we cannot talk about Myanmar because it is a separate country. It is going to be extremely difficult to talk about that. But let us be practical. Is that arrangement possible, Mr. Chubao Zukum?
Yeah, Wasbir, actually, I am not party to the negotiating parties, either on behalf of the government of India or the Indonesians. But it has already come to the public domain that as per the framework agreement, government of India is willing to create a body called Pan-Naga Ho, which will cover the entire Naga inhabited areas. There will be a separate body where all the Naga people from different Naga areas will come there.
Right.
And then, this will form like a cultural body where, emotional and social cultural integration will be possible. So, yes,
Okay.
it will be very pragmatic and realistic.
Pragmatic. Okay, Professor, hold your thoughts, Mr. Ojukum. Hold your thoughts, Mr. Ojukum. Mr. Javier Mao, we lost you for some time because of the poor telecommunication link. We have to live with such kind of things in the northeastern region. I hope our governments do something to improve the connectivity. We cannot even do a simple evening talk show because of poor connectivity. That is something which the government needs to take into account. But coming back to the debate, Professor Mao, you said that it is not practical, but your view was countered by Naga Hoho leader Mr. Chubao Zukum and others, who said that the Nagas have come down from their original demand of a separate Naga homeland to that of a flag and a constitution. Therefore, the government of India should not delay. Government of India must also show pragmatism. So how do you counter this, or do you agree now? At least are you willing to revise your position? Okay. Okay, Professor Mao, we have lost again. I am now joined by Dr. Noni Gopal Mohanto. Noni Gopal Mohanto is a registrar at the Guwahati University, a very, very well-known political commentator. Noni Gopal Mohanto, welcome. We are discussing the issue. The NSC and IM has recently written a letter to the Prime Minister where they demanded a flag and a constitution. They have reiterated their demand. This is not a fresh demand. They have reiterated. They are saying that this is the core issue. Now, Mr. Chuba Ozukum of the Naga Hoho is saying that when the NSCN has come down from their demand of a separate Naga homeland, the government of India should waste no time in giving them their demand of a flag and a constitution, which is very, very symbolic but very integral to the Naga identity. What is your view?
Wasbir, sorry for being late because I was on my way to the program and I couldn't listen to the opinion of my esteemed panelist. But coming to your point, we must understand one point is the fact that the basic framework of Naga demand goes back to even on the eve of independence when there was 9-point agreement with Ali Akbar Haidari agreement. The basic demand, as all of us we know, is the centering around the question of sovereignty and the question of integration of Naga inhabited areas. And we have come a long way. Credit must be given to the nationalist leaders of Nagaland that they have come down from that demand of sovereign Nagaland to a kind of, settlement which now center around the question of a separate flag and a separate constitution. Now, why the Naga leaders are in a hurry is precisely because of the fact that the sudden abrogation, I will not say the elimination, or the sudden amendment to the Article 370 pertaining to Jammu and Kashmir, it creates a kind of suspicion among the minds of or the stalwarts of Naga nationalism that this special provision or even this agreement of providing separate constitution, separate flag would be compromised. But we must remember one thing, Wasbir, that is being the fact that there is a difference between Article 370 and 371A. Because this is the 371 pertaining to Nagaland is a special provision. And 370 article pertaining to Jammu and Kashmir is a transient, temporary provision. That's not a permanent provision. So this issue of Nagaland was very detailed manner it was discussed in Constituent Assembly. If you look into the debate of Northeast issue, then Assam, in Constituent Assembly, there was three approaches. One was the assimilationist who wanted the Naga people and the other ethnic groups to be assimilated with the mainstream. The second group was no, they wanted anthropological approach. They wanted to keep the Nagas away or even the ethnic groups. And the third approach was adopted by Nehru, who talked about a mixed approach.
Okay.
We should, what his argument was that we should protect the tribal way of life, but at the same time adopting Indian way of life.
Okay.
So now this separate flag or separate constitution, my last point, Wasbir Hussain, is that 371A, if you look into the various provisions, these are some of the provisions pertaining to the protection of land, protection of resources, protection of customary law, protection of Naga way of life. So I believe we can create a subset of articles within this framework that satisfy
that's a very,
the demand of
very
the Naga
interesting.
people.
Create
it's a very symbolic demand. It's a very symbolic demand.
Absolutely, very well articulated there, Noni Gopal Mohanto, creating a subset of articles within the ambit of 371A. Now, I have to go for a 1-minute break, but before that, Achumbemo Kikon, the core issues are being described as flag and constitution. Your party is the main opposition party in Nagaland. What do you think? Is this the core issue really?
Well, as far as the Naga political movement is concerned, it has its root prior to even declaration of Indian independence. You are fully aware that Nagas declared its independence on the 14 August, that is one day prior to the declaration of Indian independence on the 15 August 1947.
Yeah.
Which was followed by 1951 plebiscite. And therefore, historically, legally, we have established our case well ahead of the declaration of Indian independence. And therefore, the symbolic issue, that is the one which you have raised, the flag, the Naga national flag, as well as the Naga Yazabo, the constitution of the Naga people. I think these are some of the core things which needs to be resolved well settling the Naga political issue. We have also resolved in one of our CEC resolution dated 12 June 2019 this year, wherein the Naga people's front, since we are a party that advocates for a negotiated political settlement of the Naga political issue.
Okay.
We have very categorically stated in our resolution that without taking the symbolic issue, resolving
all
the
right,
Naga political issue,
hold your thoughts. We'll go for a short break, but don't go away. I'll be right back after this very, very short commercial break. Welcome back. I'm going straight to Kohima. Mr. Supuni Philo, Mr. Philo, the Governor R.N. Ravi, who is also the peace interlocutor, he has made a very interesting statement saying that the Prime Minister had asked him to resolve the issue within 3 months. So, now, that is one point. Please note that point, that Prime Minister has asked me to resolve the issue within 3 months. Now, point number one. Point number two, the NSC and I am writing a letter to the Prime Minister saying that the two core issues of flag and constitution are not resolved between the two sides. Now, this gives an impression that all other issues have been resolved. All other issues, differences have been sorted out. Therefore, it seems possible that if the issue of the flag and the constitution is resolved, yes, one can see an agreement within the next maybe 80 days, because 10 days have already passed since he said 3 months. In the next 80 days, can we expect a Naga accord?
Wasbir, I'm not like our former president of Naga who has said. I myself is also not a part of the negotiating team.
So am I.
However, if the issue of the flag and the constitution is not being solved, I believe that the solution that is being envisaged will not be honorable and acceptable to the Naga people. And I myself have gone through the letter being written by our Honorable President and Atokil to the Prime Minister, and they have clearly stated in that particular letter that for the solution to be honorable and acceptable to the Nagas, the flag and the constitution has to be resolved. Okay. If these two issues have been resolved, who knows, we might see a solution in the next 80 days also.
Yeah. Now, let me go to Arunav. Arunav, that do you get this sense? Because the Prime Minister's letter, which is written by the NSC and IM, says that these are the two core issues on which the two sides have not yet reached an agreement.
Yeah, in fact,
does it give an impression that all other issues have been resolved?
Yes, fact,
and if so,
yeah.
Is it superstructure one of them?
Yeah, in fact, because if you see the comments made by R.N. Ravi, at least prior to 6 months from now, if you see, he has been saying continuously that most of the issues has been resolved and we have reached to a settlement. So, apart from a separate flag and a separate constitution, and I think the NSCN has given out their demand for integration of the Naga areas, and in fact have gone for a superstructure, Pan Naga Hoho, which is without altering the territories of the states like Assam and Manipur. So, as if you see those comments that has been made by R.N. Ravi after talking with the civil society leaders and NSCN, we can see that apart from the state flag and a separate constitution, most of the issues have been cleared out.
Okay, most of the issues have been cleared up. Now the issue is, Dr. Nanigopal Mohanto and Professor Xavier Mao, you know, symbolism sometimes is extremely important. It is extremely important because during the merger of Kashmir, in fact, even that flag, Article 370 was also symbolic. I think that is the reason why the center could withdraw it. It was a temporary, you know, as Nanigopal Mohanto has said, it was a temporary provision and it was not difficult for the government of India to withdraw it. So, symbolism to make it concrete, there is the real challenge as far as the Nagas are concerned. Dr. Mohanto, yes.
Yeah, very true, very true. Wasbir, symbolism plays a very important role in ethnic conflict resolution. Well, you know, plus both the Naga leaders and government of India, both of them are in a hurry. Why? Because there is a kind of conflict fatigue, particularly in the Naga civil society. Because since 1987, an entire new generation has emerged that had not sensed violence or conflict of that kind of nature that we had during the time of 80s. So my point is that it's important that the Naga issue be resolved both in the interest of the Nagas as well as for the Indian state. Because Indian state, when it comes to the resolution of intractable problem, they basically relies on Kautilyan statecraft, sam, dam, dandaved. I think all these tactics have been adopted, but Naga is such an issue which is one of the oldest unresolved ethnic issue in South Asia. So this movement has shown its resilience. The Naga people are extremely cautious about their collective identity.
Yes.
Just imagine,
Wasbir,
they do not have unifying linguistic similarities, but in spite of that, they have a sense of solidarity. So I believe Indian government should, you know, in packaging, I mean, in such a manner it should be drafted so that it satisfies the ethnic demands of the Naga people as well as the Indian mainstream. So I believe this is the right time that and R.N. Ravi is the right person. I think he is the governor. And we need to go for
let me go to, yes, Nani, hold on. Nani Gopal Mohanto, please hold on. Hold your thoughts. Very important point you are making. Let me quickly go to Professor Xavier Mao in Shillong. Professor Mao, you know, that Naga superstructure. Now, you know, a lot of the Naga people are getting restive now. It has been a long time since the, you know, negotiations are going on. And now, one cannot allow the negotiation to halt, to get derailed on symbolic issues of a flag and a constitution, which is, of course, we are not undermining the importance, but we are definitely, these are symbolic issues, but we cannot undermine its importance because they have a huge sentimental value among the Nagas. But you know, we have to move ahead, isn't it, Professor Mao? We have to be practical and pragmatic.
Absolutely. We have to, in order that we move ahead, what the people of India and what the government of India...
can I have Professor Mao on the screen?
Yeah, so that we have to understand.
We have to have a picture of Professor Mao on the screen because we are talking to him on the phone. Yes, Professor Mao, carry on.
Right. So, in order that we move ahead and in order to settle, finally, we need to know the mood of the government of India and the mood and attitude of the people of India. Isn't it? The Naga longs so much. Isn't it? The Naga wants so much. But whether the government of India and the people of India are willing or not at this juncture, That we have to understand. If that is not understood, then the Naga political problem will not be resolved. This is my argument.
All right, we will go. We'll find out whether your argument holds good. We'll go to Mr. Chuba Uzukum. How important it is for the government of India and the Nagas to reach a solution quickly, because the common Naga people, yes, the two sides are negotiating, they are fine. They are negotiating for 22 years, they are all right. But what about the common Naga people? They seem to be getting absolutely restless, and there are new dimensions will be added to the problem if you delay it further.
Yes, Wasbir, I think Naga people have every right to be restless, and they have every right to say that political problem should be resolved at the earliest. After the signing of ceasefire in 1997,
Yeah.
lot of things have taken place, of which many are not desirable also. So, after negotiating for the last 22 years, now the people have every right to be restless.
Okay.
So now, on the part of both government of India, the interlocutor, and Naga political negotiators, to come back to the people and tell the people what are the real obstacles and what are the demands or the points that they have already resolved, and what is the best option for the Naga people. I think in consultation with the Naga people, the
Right.
Naga masses, it's high time that
High time, absolutely,
both the
absolutely.
parties
Let
should
me
try to,
please hold your thoughts,
resolve
Mr.
the
Ozukum. Let me go to Achumbemo Kikon. Achumbemo, Naga movement started, as I have said in the beginning, from a separate homeland to integration. Now people are demanding a flag and a separate constitution. Now, how do you look at this? Do you see it as natural, or do you see it as a climb down from the original demand, or do you think the Naga leaders are only showing how pragmatic and practical they are? What is your take?
No. I think that it's totally a misconception. No, as far as we have not simmered down from our demand. These are a part and parcel of the the legitimate rights and the demand of the Naga people. As far as the flag is concerned, as far as the Naga constitution is concerned, I think this, as I have already stated, this will be a composite kind of solution where integration will it has been discussed, it has been deliberated enough. I think that is already a part of it, we believe, and this is one which, as far as the Naga issue is concerned, without the symbolic issues like the flag, which is so dear to us, I think that our identity, that the entire Naga people, the historical aspect of the Naga people, the flag itself will reflect that, and therefore that will serve the best interest while solving the Naga political issue.
All right. Susanta Talukdar, your last words. What is the road ahead now? Because we cannot be stuck on this issue right now anymore, and time is ticking. If we have to take Governor Ravi, who is also the interlocutor, seriously, and of course he knows the situation best. He is a veteran in this field. He is highly experienced. He knows what he is talking about. So, in this backdrop, Susanto, what is the road ahead?
I think the government of India has to accept these two demands. I mean, I don't see any problem in when the Naga leaders have come down from their demands and they have taken a pragmatic decision of sharing their future with India, and then agree to the superstructures like Pan Naga Ho and all. So, if a flag represents the unique history of the Naga people,
Why not give it?
Yeah, even a constitution, in the name of constitution, that that will be only related to Naga people.
Yeah.
So what is the harm in accepting this?
What is the harm in expecting, Nanugopal Mohanto, your last words, do you agree with Susanto Talukdar that what is the harm in giving the flag if it, so critical to the resolution of the 7-decade-old problem?
Wasbir, I do agree. As I have argued in my previous statement, is that there in the 371A there are some subset clauses pertaining to Nagaland and relating to resources, land, customary laws, Naga way of life, their language, and protection of cultural life. Why can't we constitute a separate sub-constitutional institutional mechanism that address the grievances of the Naga people, which is one of the oldest? It goes back to the period of 1928-29 when this was demanded to the Simon Commission. So I agree, they have come down to a great level, and we also, the government also need to take this issue seriously.
Okay.
So we can, India is famous for its asymmetrical federalism. We are already adopting it. To accommodate the grievances of the Naga people, I think these are some demands which can be accommodated. And another issue is that there is a Sami Council kind of solution which can also give representation to the demand of cultural issues of the Nagas who live in the adjoining areas.
All right. Arnav, how do you look at it? Is the road turning?
Well, I would say that I think the Nagaland, the Naga political group should go for a political solution at the earliest and not wait for a separate flag to be sanctioned by the government, rather negotiate with the government later after signing a protected political settlement.
But that may or may not happen because people will think that, after signing an agreement, their demand may not be heard or accepted.
That's what state like Karnataka is doing. They have also conceptualized their own state flag and they are negotiating with the Indian government for a separate state flag. So they can do it.
Okay, the Nagas already have their flag. But that is a very interesting way of looking at it. Why delay the Naga peace accord and why not go ahead and work on these issues if it is not resolved immediately at a later stage? Professor Javier Mao, your parting words. Professor Mao.
Yes. Yes. Yes, please tell me.
Yeah, what is your concluding remarks? What is your last word?
Naga area should be amalgamated with the Nagaland state, and for that, the government of India.
And for that, the government of India and the NSNIM and other Naga political group should consult the stakeholder state, and they should be compensated, and then economic development package should be there. I think that will be a workable and resolvable thing we can immediately visualize.
Okay.
But beyond that, I do not think the other thing, the people of India may not be willing, and the government of India also may not be willing. And if that is so, the political problem will continue to persist.
Okay. We will try to reconnect with Nagaland where the lines are down. We'll try to restart because we still have a few minutes left. But we will definitely like to have the concluding remarks from Kohima. Mr. Achumbemo Kikon, if you can hear me, how do you view the road ahead? How would your party want things to proceed at this critical juncture? Achumbemo.
Well, as far as my party is concerned, Naga People's Front, we have a history, a clear history of sacrificing as far as the Naga issue is concerned. It will be too long for me to to enunciate in this short time duration which you are giving me. But I would like to take you back to the history a little bit. In 1964, the ceasefire was signed. The first ceasefire was signed between the government of India and at that point of time, the federal government of Nagaland, NNC-led federal government of Nagaland. And the Koch party, the NPF, we were having 12 members. 12 of them resigned after the ceasefire was signed. That is one sacrifice. In 1997, the government of India again signed ceasefire between the NSCNIM and the government of India. So in 1998, there was an assembly election in Nagaland. Please hold on for one second. In 1998, assembly election was called in Nagaland. the Naga People's Front, my party, abstained from that election with the hope that we must pave way for an early political negotiated settlement. Now, even now, the Naga People's Front stand for negotiated political, inclusive political settlement, and we have been doing that. And we are doing that, and we will do the next step.
Achumemo, fine, thank you. Mr. Chubazukum, your last words, what is the road ahead? What should be done in the coming days? Because are you expecting an agreement? What about the civil society? Are you not going to have even an idea as to what is contained in the Naga Accord? Are you going to read it only in the newspapers?
See, Wasbir, first of all, what I would like to say is why the Naga leaders are insisting that the separate flag and the constitution should be granted to the Naga people is the Naga political negotiators and the government of India have agreed in principle in the beginning that the talk will continue and the agreement will be signed on the basis of sharing of sovereign power between the two entities. This is why when we talk about the sharing of sovereign power, the separate constitution in the flag comes under this. The Naga people negotiators have demanded, as far as my knowledge is concerned, that all the politically agreed terms will be is supposed to be preamble to the Naga constitution.
All right.
Which
Mr. Chubazukum, for lack of time, I had to cut you short. I apologize to you. Mr. Philo, these are very critical times, isn't it? 10 seconds to you.
Wasbir, before I get into my concluded remark, allow me to express my regret that a Naga intellectual of Professor Xavier's stature had the audacity to say that the demand for a flag and a separate constitution is not pragmatic. Having said that, the Naga people are looking forward to a solution that is honorable and acceptable to everyone. If the solution is acceptable to the Naga people, we will welcome it with open arms.
All right.
However, if the solution is subjected to the Constitution of India, I think the government has expressed its difficulties time and again about the flag and the Constitution.
Absolutely.
However, going by the unique history of the Naga people, the unique rights of the Naga people, I think the Naga solution should not be subjected to the Constitution of India.
Okay, but I have to tell Mr. Philo, the Nagas are an extremely democratic people, and you have said about Professor Mao, that is his view, isn't it? He has the democratic right to express his view. Do you agree or not?
However, like I said, it's deeply regretful that someone of Professor Xavier's stature had to say this when the Naga people are all looking forward and fighting for a solution wherein the flag and the constitution forms an integral part of
absolutely. There is no denying the fact that flag and the constitution are extremely integral part. And now that we have Governor Ravi as the state governor, he is also the interlocutor, and there is a lot of hopes being generated. And if he is listening to this debate, we request him to take up the matter of telephone connectivity, internet connectivity in Nagaland, so that we can have an uninterrupted debate. On this note, I end this edition of Northeast Tonight. Thank all my panelists for engaging in this very, very engaging discussion. Good night and goodbye.